Hey, welcome. If you've ever found yourself just staring at a GCSE chemistry question and your mind just goes completely blank, then trust me, you are in exactly the right place. That exam stress is no joke, but a lot of it really just comes from not knowing how to tackle the questions. So today we're going to change that. We're going to learn a simple four-step method to break down any exam question so you can start thinking like an examiner and answering with total confidence. So here's our game plan for today. First up, we're going to lay out the four-step method for cracking this exam code. Then, we're going to apply it to some foundational questions, the early ones, to really build up our skills. After that, we'll level up and use the same method on some trickier application and calculation questions. And to finish, we'll wrap everything up into a neat strategy summary that you can take with you into any exam. It's all about building that confidence, step by step. Okay, let's get right into it. The core of everything we're doing today comes down to this four-step method. It's a really simple framework, but its whole purpose is to make you pause, figure out what the examiner is actually asking for, and then build your answer in a smart, strategic way. This isn't about stuffing your head with more chemistry, it's about using the chemistry you already know, but way more effectively. Okay, so here they are, the four steps to success. Number 1, identify the command word. Now, this is huge. Is the question asking you to state, describe, or explain because they all mean very different things? Number 2, spot the key words. These are the specific science terms the whole question hinges on. Number 3, check the marks. This is a massive clue from the examiner telling you exactly how many points you need to make. And finally, number 4, using all that info, you take a second to plan your answer before you even start writing. All right. Let's get our hands dirty and put this method into practice. We're going to start with the first few questions from a paper. These usually test your understanding of the core concepts, which makes them the perfect training ground for our four-step method before we get to the really tough stuff.
Okay, let's take a look at our first question. Right away, the command word just jumps off the page, draw. Simple enough, my answer has to be a picture. Next, what are the keywords? I'm drawing the arrangement of particles in solid wax. That word solid is the critical piece of information here. It tells me exactly how the particles should look. And finally, I'll check the marks. It's just one. That's my cue not to overcomplicate things. I just need one simple, correct diagram to get the point.
And there it is. See? We focused on that key word, solid, and drew a neat, regular, ordered pattern. And then you look at the mark scheme. What is the examiner looking for? A diagram where all particles should be arranged regularly. It's a direct match. By decoding that one single keyword, we knew exactly what to draw. One keyword, one mark. Done. All right, let's move on. Command word, explain. Okay, so this is a step up from draw. Explain means I need to give reasons why. The keywords are physical change and chemical change, so I know I need to compare them. And the biggest clue of all, look at the marks. It's worth 2. This is like a giant flashing sign from the examiner telling you, hey, give me 2 distinct relevant points in your answer. So how do we get those 2 points? The question is a straight-up comparison, and the mark scheme rewards the 2 fundamental ideas that separate them. Point number 1 is that a physical change is reversible. Point number 2 is that in a physical change, no new substance is made. The 2 marks are literally for the 2 textbook definitions. Our strategy of looking for 2 points led us straight to the answer.
Let's run the system again. Command word, explain. Keywords, ammonium sulfate and farmers. And the marks, 2 again. So we know we need to give reasons. For any explain question, a fantastic little mental trick is to structure your answer as what and why. What is it used for, and why is that useful? Thinking this way will almost always guide you to the 2 points you need.
And here you go, it works perfectly. The mark scheme gives 1 mark for the what, it's used as a fertilizer, and the second mark is for the why, it's to help their crops grow, because it provides nitrogen. That simple what and why structure lines up perfectly with the 2 marks available.
Oh, this is a fantastic example. Command word, explain, marks 2. But just look at the key words in terms of electrons. The examiner is literally telling you what your answer has to be about. If you start talking about protons or neutrons here, you're not going to get the marks. Your entire focus has to be on electrons. It's a massive signpost pointing you right to the answer. So we just have to follow those instructions. The mark scheme gives 1 point for saying what happens, there's a gain of electrons, and the second point is for being specific about how many, it's 1 electron. The question asked for an explanation in terms of electrons, and that's exactly what the mark scheme rewards. All right, we've totally nailed the foundational questions. Now we're moving into the part of the paper that requires a bit more application. Think practical skills, think calculations. Now, these might look a bit more intimidating, but guess what? The exact same 4-step method still applies. Let me prove it to you. Ah, the titration question. You knew it was coming, right? It's a classic that shows up on pretty much every paper. It's all about being precise and handling data. But don't ever panic when you see a big table of numbers. It's just there to be broken down, one step at a time. Okay, so first things first, they usually give you a nice, easy start to get you settled in. Here, we just need to calculate the volume for that rough titration. It's just a simple subtraction. Final reading minus the initial reading. So 29.15 minus 1.50. That gives us 27.65. Boom, one easy mark in the bag. Okay, now for the main event. The command word is calculate. The keyword is mean. But what's the other absolutely crucial keyword here? Accurate. The question is very specific. Use the accurate titrations. So take a look at the data. Which results should we actually be using to figure out our mean? We know the rough one is out. We need to look at those 3 accurate results. Okay, so here's how we do this. To get a reliable mean, we can't use the rough one. It's called rough for a reason. We only use the concordant results, which is just a fancy word for results that are really close to each other. And you can see that 24.70, 24.80, and 24.60 are all nice and tightly clustered. So we use those 3. We add them up to get 74.10, divide by 3, and that gives us our final mean, 24.70. You'd get 1 mark for showing your work and a second for that final answer. Here's another calculate question, but this time it's an empirical formula. When you see this, a little alarm should go off in your head that says, I know the routine for this. It's a 3-mark question, which is a huge clue that there's a specific multi-step process the examiner is looking for. And here is that exact method, laid out perfectly. It's a 3-step process for 3 marks. Step 1, you find the moles by dividing the mass by the atomic mass for each element. Step 2, you find the simplest ratio by dividing both of your answers by the smallest number. And step 3, you write out the final formula using that ratio, CiCl4. It's like a recipe. You follow the steps, you get the marks. All right, we're back to a theory question. Let's run the system. Command word, describe. Keywords, 2 differences. And it's for 2 marks. I mean, the instructions could not be clearer. We need to state 2 distinct points of comparison between the 2 tables. A quick list or a little table is a perfect way to answer this. And here are 2 perfect examples. First big difference, Mendeleev ordered his table by atomic mass. The modern table is ordered by atomic number. That's 1. Second, Mendeleev famously left gaps for elements he predicted existed. Our modern table is all filled in. 2 clear differences, 2 easy marks. Whoa, okay, now this is a big one. 4 marks, so let's look closely. The command word is describe, but notice it's asking for 2 separate procedures. One for the copper hydroxide, which we know is an insoluble solid, and one for the sodium sulfate, which is a soluble salt still in the solution. This is basically 2 questions in one, so we need a plan for each part to get all 4 marks. Let's tackle part 1, getting the pure insoluble copper hydroxide. The slide lays out the 3 key stages perfectly. First, since it's a solid that won't dissolve, our go-to method is filtration. We pour the mixture through filter paper. The solid gets stuck, the liquid goes through. But is it pure yet? Nope. So step 2, we've got to wash it with distilled water to rinse off any impurities. And finally, to get our pure dry solid, step 3 is to, well, dry it, maybe in a warm oven. Just remember that mantra for insoluble solids. Filter, wash, dry. That would get you the first 2 marks. Now for the second half, getting the soluble sodium sulfate. This needs a totally different technique, crystallization. The liquid that passed through the filter paper, the filtrate, that's where our salt is. Step 1 is to gently heat it to evaporate some of the water, making the solution more concentrated. Then, and this is the key part, we let it cool down slowly. As it cools, the sodium sulfate becomes less soluble and starts to form pure crystals. Finally, we just filter those crystals out and let them dry. It's a completely different process, and that's how you'd get the other 2 marks. We have covered a lot of ground today, breaking down everything from simple diagrams to complex, multi-part procedures. So now, let's just boil it all down into one final, clear blueprint that you can use to walk into your exam with a real strategy. So let's bring it all together. Here's your exam blueprint. Think of it like this. Command words are your instructions. They tell you what to do. The marks tell you how many points to write down. Keywords are your target. They tell you what to focus on. For things like calculations and practicals, remember there's always a set method. Just learn the steps. But the golden rule, above everything else, is simple. Read the question carefully. And when you think you're done, read it one more time.
We've built the method, we've applied it, and we've seen that it works. So now it's over to you. Looking back at everything we've covered, what is the one question type that you're going to practice first using this method? Is it the calculations, the explain questions? Whatever it is, taking that first step to practice is the most important part. Thanks for watching.